religion equals bigotry, and freedom of speech equals the right to offend. And now he says an interesting sentence which applies to our situation today, but he's just slightly incorrect about it. He says, where there is a strong permanent leaven of intolerance in the feelings of a people, it needs but little to provoke them into actively persecuting those whom they have never ceased to think proper objects of persecution. Now, let's cut off the last few words here. So where there's a strong permanent leaven of intolerance in a people, it needs but little to provoke them into actively persecuting. Full stop. Not necessarily persecuting those who they've always thought proper to persecute. So let's look at Britain today, the United Kingdom. Well, whatever, that island, whatever you call it. They really, for as far as I can tell, and as far as they've been professing, they really have believed, until recently, that multiculturalism's great. That it's fantastic, fabulous to have a friend with dark skin and go eat at an Indian restaurant, and the neighbors across the street wear bed sheets, when they go out, and that's all wonderful and fuzzy and warm, and it's like we're all having a great family picnic together or something, until it starts getting ugly. Then they start persecuting the Muslims, as I think they should, but let's see. Now's not the time to go into the policy on the Muslims. I don't think they should do like they did to the Jews, but certainly any Muslim that causes any problem should be arrested and interred, and a war should be waged against the countries that are waging terrorist activities against our countries. But now's not the time for that whole debate. The point is that the spirit of persecution never left the Brits. They were persecuting the people who didn't like Islam, right? During the multiculturalist days, you were persecuted if you said the Holocaust didn't happen, or if you said black people get lower IQ scores, or if you said Japanese and Asian people get higher IQ scores than whites. If you said any of that, you were called a racist, and people ran screaming from the room, or they tried to put you in jail. Geert Wilders comes to Britain and isn't even allowed to leave the airport. They said he can't speak in Britain. So they are intolerant, and they persecute who they see fit to persecute. Now, when the tables switch and they realize these Muslims are really doing a number on the country, they'll start persecuting the Muslims. It'll happen just like that. So the immigration that they've allowed over there from Italy up to northern Norway and everything in between, Germany and France and Denmark and all of them, the immigration they've allowed was simply persecution in disguise. They were persecuting the people who thought that Western culture was valuable. And they were saying, oh yeah, you think Western culture is valuable? Well, we're going to invite as many people from all over the world as we can get, and we're going to tell them to keep their culture. And we're going to tell them that our culture sucks. How do you like that? So they were persecuting, to some extent, to a great extent, people who had a rational view of Western culture. And when it gets ugly, as Mark Stein said, they'll turn right around and turn into fascists and start persecuting the Muslims, which they're doing. Look at the BNP, which I've done a video on. Okay. Now on page 41 he says, "It is not the minds of heretics that are deteriorated most by a ban placed on inquiry. The greatest harm is done to those who are not heretics, and whose whole mental development is cramped and their reason cowed by the fear of heresy." It's an excellent point that he makes there. Heretics, by definition, don't buy into everybody's orthodox views. So you're not saving the heretics from anything. They're done. What you're doing is you're stilting the growth of everyone else's mind, all the people who aren't heretics already. You're stopping them from having the largest possible pasture for their mind to wander in. Now, a related thought at the end of this paragraph. No one can be a great thinker who does not recognize that as a thinker, it is his first duty to follow his intellect to whatever conclusions it may lead. That is true. As Ayn Rand said, it doesn't matter if the whole of humanity believes one thing and you have concluded another. You cannot renounce your mind. You have to believe the things that you understand to be true. And you have to have the integrity to do that. And if all of humanity stands against you, and you are correct, then, like the Greeks said, let's see, maybe I don't remember where this is from. I think a Greek tragedy, but when the hero's being destroyed, we see this, and we're able to understand that even in this moment of destruction, he is greater and more noble than the forces which destroy him. A poignant thought, I think. And you have to realize that your mind cannot be subjected to anyone else's mind. If you understand and know something, and other people say that's not true, you can't say, well, I'm going to trust their mind instead of mine. No, you have to trust your own mind and only your own mind. And if anyone else says anything, even if they say gravity pulls things down at 9.2 meters a second squared, or if they say E equals mc squared, you can't just trust that. You need to figure it out and find out for yourself. If someone says Immanuel Kant is evil, you would do well to read his stuff, and certainly to read multiple people's opinions on him, and look for yourself at what you think Kant said. So, always trust your own conclusions, no matter what it leads to. To trust someone else's conclusions would be strange. It's a mind either way. But why would you trust someone else's mind when your mind is telling you something different? Now, he adds, truth gains more even by the errors of one who, with due study and preparation, thinks for himself, than it gains by the true opinions of those who only hold them because they do not suffer themselves to think. So truth, if we can disembody truth as a great establishment or entity or goal, truth gains more from people who are in error, but they're in error with the best of intentions. Like, for example, Copernicus. He was in error to the extent that he said that the planets move in circles around the sun. He was wrong. They don't. They move in ellipses around the sun. But that's someone who followed the conclusions of his own mind, ended up making a very, very big mistake, so big that Ptolemy's system from well over 1,000 years earlier was more accurate than his. No, 950 years earlier, I think. But at any rate, he made a very big mistake. But we gained more from his honest mistake than we gained from all the people who said, oh, Ptolemy's right, because he's accurate. Like quantum mechanics. Accurate, right? Doesn't mean it's true. Ptolemy allows you to sail the seven seas without running into islands and stuff. But that doesn't mean it's true. Copernicus said things go around the sun in circles. The planets go around the sun in circles. Not true, but more true than Ptolemy. So an honest error leads you further towards the truth than just going along with what people say. Seems obvious when you put it that way. Now he makes a point that we can use to compare Soviet Russia to the United States. Quote, there have been, and may again be, great individual thinkers in a general atmosphere of mental slavery. But there never has been, nor ever will be, in that atmosphere, an intellectually active people. So you might have individual thinkers in a state of slavery, but for the populace as a whole